is the content we're using today from Think and Grow Rich. This is on organized planning. Guys, this is a meaty chapter. This is a 40 to 50 page chapter. So I'm just going to let everybody know now that we are going to deep dive on this over a couple of days. Today, I'm seeing this as part one, where we can talk highlights, nuggets, pull them out. And then I want to use tomorrow and potentially even the day after to really deep dive and break it down so you guys can begin implementing your organized plan. As always, I could talk for hours on the content we're covering. And as always, that's not the role here in this room. This room is yours. So what do you guys have from organized planning, other than overload, that you want to share? Client My Read, grab that book. What do you got?
Good morning. So the thing that I pulled out of this is that greatness is never achieved by oneself. And that is antithetical to the way that most of us have been taught in America. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. Take care of your own business. We were never taught compile people around you that are like-minded, that wish to go where you're going, and as a collective group, make something happen. That was my big thing. So here's where that led to. I don't know if everyone is with the same real estate company that I'm with, but what that told me is in my head, hey, that's really cool, because that means I'm aligned with a company that believes in compiling people together towards a common goal. And so that was my aha moment. So as I went through this, I said, how do I put this together? What do I do? And then another aha moment. Client, the group's already there. Question, how do you better utilize what you have? I was listening to a sermon, one of the greatest sermons I ever listened to. And the sermon was this: what is in your hand? So many times we're looking way over the sunrise, over the sunset to try to get this thing that's way over there. And in our hand, we have what we need. But those were my two takeaways. I've talked enough.
Well, I love the high level, client, on collaboration and really what we're already building together to help agents through collaboration. So many other worlds I know are, especially at we're in the same space, same office, we're competitors. We don't share anything. And what we're doing in this space, because we're in this same quote room, yet we're all over the country, everybody's willing to share their takeaways, their nuggets, their way of doing it. And it's accelerating everybody's success in this room. Julianne, you're up, my dear.
All right. So sticking on that same topic there as Mr. Client, I love how he goes into defining a mastermind, because it goes deeper than I've ever really thought about it. I knew you're supposed to have stuff to contribute, and I know it's a group of people like-minded, but I love how he uses the word, you must select the people in your mastermind. So it's like, there's an interview process here, he really lays it out so far as making use of the mastermind principle and forming the mastermind alliance, maintaining perfect harmony, and to meet frequently. This isn't like once a month. These are people who are really focused. And I love also how he talks about seeing that those plans, your plans, are checked and approved by the member of your mastermind alliance. And the way you do this is that you have to know that there's a skill set. You have to know what people's skills are in order to effectively use them. So if somebody, let's say, everybody here is doing real estate, right? and one person does marketing, but another person is really good at cold calling for some reason. And another person is like a wizard at finance and can see the creative ways to master a sale. You know, those are the different key. If you all have the same talent, it's kind of hard to build a mastermind, because even if you're all going in the same direction, you're not really assisting each other. You're there motivating each other, but you're not taking knowledge that somebody else doesn't have and sharing it with them and helping them to achieve their goals. And that they all must have a reframe of failure and seeing it as a temporary defeat.
So the fun of this mastermind, I want to give you guys kind of a vision of this implemented, because when I was in the home inspection space,
I didn't go to sleep.
we had this. We had probably, and just in our group, we had about 18
No,
business owners
didn't get
that would be in an environment like this, but it was a phone conference line back in the day, talking for an hour a week. And then once a quarter, we would all meet together in one person's city. And we would spend 2 days in a conference room. You had an hour on stage, sometimes 45 minutes, where for the first 30 minutes, you shared what you did well and what was working. And for the second 30 minutes, you shared where you were falling on your ass so the room could help you get better. Imagine for a moment you decided you were going to build something like that yourself, because nothing stops you. Setting up a mastermind for folks that are, quote, at your level in your industry,
Good.
and ratcheting it up and make magic happen. These are here for you to take away and implement. And what do you got? Ann Brady. I think maybe Ann Brady froze. Tom, the floor is yours, buddy.
So I thought it was interesting. A couple of things. The first thing that grabbed me was when you're doing these masterminds and things are not profitable, you go and fix it. And you go and fix it, and you go and fix it. And so many people in some masterminds I've been to, and one that I did go to that I was just wowed by was one that was put on by Don here in Austin, where they addressed things and recreated and came up with solutions and figured out why things weren't working, and not why, but that they weren't working and that we needed to go and do something differently. I liked that a lot. There was another thing which is further into the chapter where they're talking about the characteristics of a good leader. And that one really hit me because there's somebody that I know that has a team who keeps losing people, and it's because of everybody else. And the reality is, one of my favorite things that Grant Cardone says is, when it comes to when mistakes are made, I own it. And I say, gosh, that's completely my fault. And I thought, man, that's really silly. Well, I went to an event in Miami with Grant Cardone, and I paid the big bucks so I could sit up front because, this is a once in a lifetime, whatever. And they said, oh, no, you're back here. So I was mad, and I wanted to be mad, and I wanted to pitch a fit. And I went back to the check-in station, and that's the first thing the woman said to me. Oh, man, it's completely my fault. And I was like, oh, gosh, I was I wanted to be right and whatever. And so she just took that right out of me. And so just continuing on with that, it's completely my fault thing. Anytime something was missed, this team owner it's never been her fault. Oh, well, you should have known that that's what I needed. You should have known I didn't like that description. You should have known I didn't want that picture. Instead of it's completely my fault and this is how we're going to fix it, because that belittling and that focus on who's wrong is of little relevance. The fact, it's like asking why, but in this case, it's what was wrong? How do we fix it? How do we keep from doing this in the future?
And here's the entertaining part for me on this ownership, like Tom is talking about. where no matter what, it's you. Man, in the moment, it's painful. You still want to just point the finger outward. And yet by pointing the finger outward and blaming, you've given up all the power, all the authority, all the willingness and ability to change. And the moment you own everything, you are now taking on the power that you get to fix it and that you can fix it. Whatever it is, if it's your fault, think about this in even the level of interpersonal relationships. You look at those and look through the lens of maybe one that hasn't worked out, and look through the lens of where your DNA was in that. No matter what could you have done differently? That's where the lessons come in. You're on the phone, you're making your calls, you do 100 conversations and you don't get a single appointment. We can now start having a conversation about maybe what's wrong in that conversation. It's not the consumers you're talking to. You're just not having the right conversation. The more you own that, the faster you will accelerate and improve every aspect of life when you are the one that is truly the impetus of where the challenges are. And the floor is yours.
Yeah. So a couple things about what Julian and Tom have both said. So I had coffee yesterday with a lender friend of mine, lender partner, and they were talking about a book of like the 6-lane highway, which, nothing new. It's like your agent, your lender, your title, your attorney, referral, your financial advisor. I can't think what the other one was. And we were talking about that and how it's really challenging to build that up. And I was, because there's only a limited number of referrals that start there, and you have to grow and expand, but that like those tend to be the industries that know that they're referral driven. And just now I was thinking about that within our organization. We've taken that 6-lane highway and we've turned it into a 60,000 lane highway or 90,000 lane highway plus our little other 5. And I was like, that's actually really interesting and really powerful, because I've always sort of been like what client was talking about. I'm a lone wolf, right? The buck stops with me. It's so much easier for me to just get it done than to try and train out. And I've tried. I'll continue trying. I'm going to continue working towards this. But I thought that was a really interesting, like we've taken and changed the entire industry because of our 90,000 lane highway. And then, oh golly, I'm drawing a blank now. Oh, I know, Tom, and you were talking about being the person where the buck stops. I recently heard the idea that when you have failed, when you've let somebody down, that we as humans have 2 ways of going, and one of them is guilt and one of them is shame. And obviously, dwelling in either of those emotions isn't really where we want to live. But just now listening to Tom talk, I thought, you know what? Guilt leads much more quickly to, oh my gosh, that was me. Let me fix that for you. Whereas shame is like, oh God, I can't claim that. I'm going to point that back at you. And
How do I cover it up?
How do I cover it up? I don't want to claim this. I didn't do that. That didn't happen. That was somebody else's fault. That was not me. But guilt, when we let that sort of be the preliminary thing of, oh no, I feel bad that happened. Let's resolve that. So, and I've seen that in interpersonal relationships and business relationships. And I had never really figured out where those people were coming from when they're like, I'm just going to hide from it, or I'm going to blame everybody else for it. And I heard that and I was like, that is it. That is it right there. Guilt is my preliminary reaction, and I'm going to find a resolution for it, and I'm going to make everything better. And shame wants people to go hide. So just a thought on that.
Well, I want to add one more fun part of this and give you a third option, a third lane in, because guilt, shame means that you personally let them down. Because the challenge was you let someone down. Let's say a great example that maybe I'm the only one that's ever done. You've missed an appointment. Okay. And that guilt and shame kicks in. I want you instead to go through my personal process, which I have shared with others, that it starts first with a system. Okay. It wasn't a human being. By the way, I do this with any of my VAs or agents or anybody working with me or for me. I don't immediately think it was them. I think, okay, was there a system in place that could have resolved this? If not, then we need a system. One of my favorites, by the way, since we're talking about missing an appointment, is the calendar. The reason I preach the calendar schedule as the first cornerstone of success in real estate is because it is the system that makes everything else in life work. So if we have a system, then the next thing is the process, the little pieces that make the system happen. So where was my breakdown? Maybe I didn't have a process of in the moment putting that in the calendar. So I got to build that little piece of the process. Every time something comes up, I'm going to pause and send myself a text. I'm going to make a voice record, something. If the systems are there and the processes are all there and perfect, only after that does it really become a people issue. So thinking as it applies to your VA working offshore, getting your listings up and running. We got our listing process. Perfect. And by the way, I have this checklist. You guys might want to ask for it. I've got all of my processes in that system. So if a breakdown occurs, I can ask her, okay, does that exist? If it didn't, we get to build a new little process to add that. And if it does, then I can find out of her what happened that she didn't do that step in the checklist. So we can now fix that. Hope that gives you, Ann, another option to not make it personal and instead acknowledge the fact that we're all human. We need systems and processes to truly run at the highest level. And when you do them over and over and over, like the morning checklist I talked to you guys about, all of a sudden it becomes a habit. It becomes automated. And now you get to replace it. What else you guys have?
Well, just quickly with that, Coach, well, a pilot, every time he gets into the seat, has the system and the process and the checklist that they have to go through every single time, no matter if they're 25 years or their first year, they still do that checklist. And just like when we leave, sometimes my wife leaves, I'm like, do you have your phone? Do you have the keys, the wallet? You know, and a lot of times she does have it, but a lot of times she's like, oh, I don't have one of the keys or the wallet or one of the things. So just thought.
Yeah, we probably need to build a better checklist around here for that. And more than one occasion, we have left the condo, left the building without the keys, which means we can't even get back into the gate to get in to our front door and have to figure out a solution. So we're working on one. What else you guys have?
I have one.
Come at us, Celeste. And thanks for turning the camera on. What do you got?
So I don't know if anyone else has thought about this, but our checklists for making sure things happen correctly is what I've always been talking about. I use prescripts with my buyers and my sellers about what is appropriate. What's the word? Appropriate behavior. I mean, without going into that, my example would be I try and set my clients up to understand what might happen. And it's amazing when you have these conversations. There's a couple things that happen. The first is you're giving them straight on direction of what you expect. The second thing that I've seen it over and over and over again is the way your client perceives you. Because you're not coming at it as, oh, after the fact, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. You're telling them ahead of time. So when someone knocks on your door and says, I want to see your home and I'm just in the neighborhood, do you mind if I come in? I'm telling them ahead of time, no, you're not supposed to show your home. That's why you hired me. Why would you think that would be something I would want you to do? Well, I don't know. I just thought I should. Oh my God, I've had it happen. So I've created things when they've gone wrong. And I've heard this, and I know you all have probably heard this. There's a list of 10 things thou shalt not do by lenders of, don't go out and buy a car, don't buy appliances, don't buy furniture. That thou shalt not list. I've created my own for my business. And what I've discovered, you know, this whole thing about expectations and having checklists, what I've discovered is I have better clients because they know I've thought about these things and I'm sharing them. These are the golden nuggets. And I let them know, we have to know that you're on my same page. Okay, you got a 19 commandments of lenders. I love that. And if we break this all down, what Russ just said, this breaking down of expectations and checklists, and when things fail, why did they fail? You're in a much better place with people because you're not waiting to the moment that things fail. In my mind, I am setting up my clients for the best possible experience. And I say it to them. This is the reason you're hiring me, is because I'm really aware of what you need to be doing. Is this okay with you? Who's going to say no? Nobody's going to say no. I don't want to be, I don't want to have somebody tell me. No, they want to know. And they want to be, okay, our mindsets are all about this. People want to know that they're doing it right. If you ask them a question, all in their mind, that the only thing they're caring about is, how do I answer this so I don't look stupid? Well, why are we not helping them bridge this whole thing by constantly assuring them, by you following this, you will be doing it right in my eyes? Are you good with that? Yeah. That's my 2 cents on this.
So let me ask you a quick question, Celeste.
Mm-hmm.
This preparation expectation setting script, is it written?
No, I have not put it in writing.
So you have now been assigned a task. All right. Because once it's in writing, then we could also build a pretty document that lists it. So not only are you giving it to them in writing, you're having the conversation. Let's up the game, because that way now it's a system. The goal is to have your systems and process so dialed that a trained monkey could do it. And that way you can then leverage it off.
I totally agree with you. I think it has it long overdue.
Yeah. And on our list, which I had on mine, I'm going to loop back with Dawn about it, was having a mastermind to break down the process of a buyer and seller, and then everybody work on fleshing it out together. So
I'm on
watch
board.
emails for that, though this is a
Okay.
great one for you to start with, Celeste. Okay. Great job.
Love it.
Love that you do that. What else you guys have? I saw other mics come hot. Let me take a look here. Julianne, you got something else to add on top of this?
Just back in the content, I think one of the things that I really enjoyed as well, and some of the things I hadn't even thought of, the major attributes of a leader, and he also goes into the causes of failure of leadership. And I think that was really prescriptive for me in the sense of, some of it seems like common sense, but if you really look at it and think about it and spend a little bit of moment on it, I think we can find examples where we failed as a leader, coloring outside the lines of these descriptions, an unwillingness to render a humble service. So many of us have been taught that leaders are not necessarily humbled. They're like, I have to be bold and brazen and I've got to know it all and I've got to have all the answers and I can't, have egg on my face. And I think that one, the unwillingness to render, I underlined the humble, because truly great leaders, when the occasion demands to perform any sort of labor that they would ask another to perform, the greatest among ye shall be a servant of all. It is the truth, and able leaders observe and respect it.
John Maxwell is a great example of that humble leadership, who will always step up and just do whatever. I got a chance to spend some time with him back in March earlier this year. and to just watch him interact with others, to watch him help out even the hotel staff. He saw a need, he just step in and take care of it. So are you guys, by the way, this humble servant, this great leader, one of my pet peeves in the real estate world. I'm not going to do that. It's not my job. Time and time again, I hear it. Time and time again, I'm going to challenge you, take it on and watch what happens to the quality of your relationship. Carrie, and then Caesar.
I was just going to add to what Celeste was saying in the chat. She said, be real when you don't have the answer, but know where to get the correct answers. I've had experiences like this before, and with like bosses or whatever, people, if I ask them a question in jobs, in the JOBs, I don't care if you don't have the answer. I just want to know that you're going to find it, or I'm going to find it, or we're going to collaborate to find it. And that's fine. Like, it doesn't matter to me, but let's just figure it out like together. And my biggest thing was always like, well, if I find the answer, don't tell me that it's not the right answer. You know what I mean? But so I'm just trying to say that I think collaboration and maybe being the servant or humble leader is really the best way to go, because you gain a lot more respect and integrity with your employees.
And on that, Carrie, I would just challenge us as solopreneurs or building our own organization operations, that as leaders, instead of going to get the information or finding someone to give us the information, finding somebody to do the information. My YouTube channel needs a lot of work to be implemented, to be SEO, to be improved. And I've got somebody in my world saying, oh, here's the best book. You need to read this and follow this to implement your YouTube channel. And my response was, why don't we find someone else who's already read it and can do it and have them do it? That's a much better way to free you up to work on your highest and best. Caesar, bring us home, brother.
Just to tie in what you just said, Coach, is like, when we look at the book, it's not how or who or forget. Like, you just figure out who's done it instead of you figuring out how to do it. Secondly, I want to talk what Julianne said about leadership. A lot of times leadership is not the most bravado people usually are not the ones that are the leadership. That's what they feel that the leaderships are. I want to say, for example, like a personal example, just like seeing Messi in Argentina. He's really quiet, but his internal leadership of what his team sees is like an amazing group of how they see him as the leader, and not because he wants to be the leader, it's just because his aura and the way that he treats, like you said, Coach, the way he treats people. A lot of times people have come to him, takes a picture, like just takes a picture, doesn't like, is not weirded out about it. So it's not what we sometimes, what you said, Julie, what we feel that leaders are. A lot of leaders are quiet and show it by example, not necessarily by what they say. So and one example is right here we have in front of us every day that shows up and it gives us our leadership. So thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Caesar. And I really love John Maxwell's quote on this. The way you know someone's a leader, they have followers. That's the ultimate piece. And not followers by force. There are people in structural organizations in the management pyramid who call themselves leaders, but it's only because they have the title and people are scared not to do what they want. Real leaders have people follow them even through fire. So let's also shift gears as we're wrapping up today, because it's Wednesday. And there are the first two primary out of the four cornerstones of business and life success. Number one, the calendar, the schedule, right? Number two is the database. Remember today, Wired Wednesdays, 1 to 2 o'clock here in the Renegade Room. Maria is here helping you guys that use KV Core to implement that. Show up, lean in, spend 1 hour a week, heads down, working on your KV Core. I intend for this to be a workshop, not ask her questions and learn and then don't do anything with it. KV Core open, working on it, ready to go. And tomorrow, let's make sure that, 12 to 1 o'clock Central is when we are doing our financial freedom mastermind, when we're implementing some profit first, we're implementing some things into our own personal world. So make sure you guys have that 12 to 1 on your radar for Thursday. Let's go here.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Of course.
So my question really is directed to Celeste. Well, what about the schedules for Thursday then for mentees? Because it's like 12, but it's all.
No, I put a email out that said we're going to be meeting at 7 o'clock on Thursday night, and I'll send out the invite to Zoom.
Is that going to be permanent?
I think it's going to have to be because we have been kind of moved around because of other events. So it's all good. It's all
Yep.
good.
And by the way,
I record my sessions.
Okay,
I
thank you.
just remembered we actually moved that 12 to 1 for that accommodation. So I was just checking on my calendar. So financial freedom tomorrow, 12 to 1 Central, not 1 to 2, because there's something else in the Epic world that goes 1 to 2. And so want to respect and honor that.